Let me know when we are live on YouTube. If you could, that would be lovely. Oh, I think we're live. All right. Hi, YouTube. Good Monday morning. I hope you're all doing as well as possible. Welcome to the Lurie Daniel. Oh, I'm not even showing my camera. Look at that. Hi, YouTube. All that just to connect and not even be showing my camera. Hello, YouTube. Welcome to the Lurie Daniel Favors Show experience here on SiriusXM's Urban View, where talk empowers and becomes action. You all are getting a glimpse into the conversation we are about to have here on our SiriusXM show, which is called the Lurie Daniel Favors Show. Not to be confused with the podcast, which is called Lurie Breaks It Down. And I will go into most of the topics that we're going to discuss today in much more detail in today's podcast episode, which will be released at 2 p.m. But let's get into what we have to get into today. I want to return to the phrase that I coined, which is called WEI. Do we all remember WEI? Of course we do. WEI is an acronym that stands for white, entitled, and incompetent. And that is exactly the type of conversation we need to have on a day like today, where we are looking at the numbers from Trumponomics. Now, y'all may remember Reaganomics. You may remember Trumpflation and phrases like Trump flagellation. There's a whole bunch of Trump-based words, but basically call it the Trump slump, Trumpflation, or Trumponomics. It's all terrible, and it is exactly what you would expect from a WEI, white, entitled, and incompetent presidency. Now, for those of you who are wondering why I'm focusing on WEI, well, apparently WEI as a phrase is getting out. I saw a meme over the weekend on Threads. It had 22,000 views or rethreads or whatever you call the thing that we do on Threads, we're no longer doing on Twitter. And basically it was WEI. It had a picture of Donald Trump, Pete, his own mama said he's trash Hegseth, and maybe Sean Duffy, or one of the other many examples of what it means to be a part of this administration when your only qualifications are being white, entitled, and incompetent, or white adjacent, which we will see a little bit later. But I coined the phrase WEI, white, entitled, and incompetent, because after the election, white nationalists were trying to use the phrase diversity, equity, and inclusion as if it were a slur. As if the only reason that we have to have policies that are rooted in diversity, equity, and inclusion, as if it weren't like the only reason we got to have that is because we needed to break the multi-decade, dare I say century-long white American collective project to basically forbid anybody else from competing at anything ever. Because once segregation in this country became illegal, racist white people stayed racist, and they refused to stop being racist. And they were so committed to racism that it didn't matter how qualified a black person was. It didn't matter how many qualifications they had racked up, how many credentials they had. It didn't matter how excellent they were. Basically, you were not even going to be able to get a shot because white people had a multi-century long project of excluding anybody who was not white, according to their current estimation, from any of the opportunities whatsoever. And basically, in the 1960s, after segregation became kind of illegal, white people were like, you can't do that. We want to still be racist. And so Lyndon B. Johnson and the federal government were like, I mean, you can still be racist, but you can't stop black people from coming to the hospital because they black. You can still be racist, but you can't stop them from becoming doctors or lawyers or whatever because they black. We're not doing that no more. And racist white people were like, well, if you're going to do that, you're going to say that we have to have diversity, equity, and inclusion or affirmative action. Well, then we're going to say that they didn't earn it. They didn't earn it meritoriously. Now, all of this makes sense to the white racist mind because, as Neely Fuller Jr. tells us, if you do not understand white supremacy, what it is and how it operates, then everything else that you think you understand is only going to confuse you. We have to remind ourselves that at its core, white supremacy is really just two mini beliefs wrapped up in one. Number one, the belief that whiteness and anything associated with whiteness, which we, according to a racialized society, include things like beauty and intelligence and capacity. All these things are sort of associated with whiteness. And this idea behind white supremacy is that whiteness and anything associated with it is superior, and that blackness and anything associated with it, like crime or violence or inferior intellectual capacity, is inferior. And as a result of this pretend superiority that white people gave themselves in their own mind, that basically they should just run the whole world. Like, that's all white supremacy is. And basically that only happened because they first decided to try to enslave the indigenous. That didn't work out so well after they had stole the indigenous land. And by they, I mean white colonizers. Then they tried to do indentured servitude, where they would have poor white people come over here, work for a couple years and help them get their profits together. And then they would give a piece of land to the poor white person, who would then get a bucket of seed and be able to go out and farm their own land. But that was very expensive. And so wealthy white people basically convinced poor white people to, one, agree with this idea of whiteness, which did not exist prior to the 1650s, and basically say, even though you're poor and you need a job, we're going to convince you that slave labor that is going to be performed by these people that we're going to human traffic is a better economic system for you, even though it's going to leave you poor and destitute, like the Arkansas farmers we're going to talk about in just a little bit. But we're going to convince you poor white people that this is a better system for you, even though it's going to economically disenfranchise you for generations, but you're going to love it because you get to be white. That's where we get WEI, white, entitled, and incompetent, because that's your only qualification. And so white supremacy, this belief that white people just came up with, and again, this is all review. You guys should, people who have been following me for a while, hello, I know this is all a review for you, but we have a lot of new people in the audience right now. WEI as a concept is getting a lot more attention right now, so we got to make sure that people are clear, and repetition is very important. And so what was happening was you created affirmative action policies that said, listen, you can be racist at home, you can't be racist at work, you can't block black people from applying simply because they're black. And white people say, well, damn it, they didn't have the merit to be here. They didn't earn it properly the way my ancestors did. And then when you hear those sorts of comments, we as black people just have to shake it off and remind ourselves that Europeans didn't have the merit to stay in Europe and actually make it work. They were the descendants of people who were the rejects of their homeland, that they failed to make it in, and that they came here like a thief in the night, stealing, caping, and plunging their penetration into any hole they could find, because they were a degenerate lot who can't even compete with people after giving themselves a 4th-century head start. Their culture is based on an identity that is itself based on a recessive genetic trait that really makes it physically among the weakest people on the planet when it comes to surviving just our physical environment. And their melanin non-having selves actually convince themselves that they are the master race. The question we have to ask ourselves is, did we believe it too? Are we clear on what WEI now means? Right. Okay. So white, entitled, and incompetent, when that is your only qualification because you refuse to compete on the actual merits. Oops, sorry, that's my timer. You refuse to compete on the actual merits. Jonah, please remind me to reset my parking meter because I'm about to get a ticket and I can't do it now because I can't focus on that in this same time. Thank you. And so when you're in a system that you created that's based on a lie that you are superior, and you refuse to let other people compete, because when those other people compete, they keep beating you. And the reason they keep beating you is because they have to not just master the basics of being effective in the field that they are trying to get into, they also have to be so good at it that they can overcome your racism. And that is what we call diversity math, which basically means by the time we get halfway to the destination, I'm twice as better than you because I didn't have to just master what you had to master. I also had to master your whiteness and get around that. So by the time we get to the actual destination, I'm 4 times better than you. It's diversity math. It works, but only if you don't have a white supremacist mind. Is everybody clear? We all clear? We're on the same page. Okay, what does that have to do with the economy? I am so glad you asked, because right now we are experiencing what happens when WEI policies shape an economy. The American economy is a white nationalist economy. This is what happens when white nationalists get to determine what your economic outcomes are going to look like. And let's explore the beauty, the wondrous example that WEI economies give us to study. And we got to study this thing because some of us as black people, whether we are here as the descendants of those who were enslaved in this land, whether you are a part of the colonized class on the continent of Africa, a lot of us still, or throughout the entire Pan-African diaspora, for some reason, a lot of us still believe that like white means right and their ass is colder and better. And so I just need us to have a very critical approach, an analytical approach, if you will, and not something that is based on emotions that itself is rooted in internalized white supremacy, because what Neely Fuller said about white supremacy, it doesn't just apply to the whites. It also applies to us. Are we all on the same page now? Excellent. Let's move on. According to the New York Times, the U.S. labor market stalled this summer, with August data adding to slowdown. Employers added only 22,000 jobs in August, and the unemployment rate rose slightly to 4.3%. This is a white nationalist economy. This is the economy that is produced by white nationalist ideas and policies, and this is what white, entitled, and incompetent economic decisions will get you, according to the Times and every other report that was looking at this over the weekend. Did you guys notice this? Every single media outlet, including Fox News, that we're going to talk about in just a little bit, every single media outlet basically had the exact same storyline. The economy sucks. Donald Trump's economy is awful. It is doing terrible things. People are in a lot of pain. And I just have to say, of course it is, because we told you so. We read what they said they were going to do, and all the economists said, don't do it. But white, entitled, and incompetent people don't actually listen to the science. They don't actually listen to the people who are experts in the field, because one of the characteristics of a white, entitled, and incompetent economic system, which is an outgrowth of a white, entitled, and incompetent policy, is that you don't actually have to know things. It's just going with your gut. You're racist good. And that's what you go with. And that's how you're going to make all your decisions. And so this is where we're at. According to the reports, employers added a paltry, a scant A minimal 22,000 jobs in August. And here go the times. The labor market appears to be stalling. You don't say, you ding dogs. It's stalling big time. Not only was that 22,000 jobs way, way, way below what had been predicted and expected, but there was also revisions to the previous months. Do you remember the revision process? We've talked a lot about this, how the numbers come in for the jobs month for the previous month. And then we also get additional data that helps us to get a more accurate picture of what was happening in the 2 months prior. Well, honey, in the 2 months prior, wasn't no jobs. Wasn't no jobs added. June actually lost 13,000 jobs. And the economy is basically right now doing as poorly as it was in December of 2020. What else was happening in December of 2020? Oh, right, the COVID pandemic, when all of us were shut in, locked at home, states shut down, economy shut down, entire globe shut down. That's how bad the economy is doing right now, thanks to Donald Trump and his white, entitled, and incompetent economic policies. Thanks to the Republicans who enabled white, entitled, and economic policies that were incompetent, and we all knew they were incompetent. In fact, the Republicans who voted for them knew they were incompetent as well. We're also seeing that the only sector that has had any job growth whatsoever is the healthcare sector, and they added 31,000 jobs. But now that you've signed into law this big bitch-ass bill, which took a sledgehammer to Medicaid and is destroying the healthcare system, I don't know how long them jobs gonna last. And that's a problem because manufacturing dropped 12,000 positions. They have lost 78,000 manufacturing jobs over the summer. Isn't the whole, not over the summer, over the year, isn't the whole reason why you got this Trumponomics, this Trumpflation, this WEI-onomics situation, ain't the only reason why he said he was doing this with the tariffs was to increase manufacturing? Well, manufacturing has lost almost $80,000 jobs. The federal jobs, we already know was terrible because that's where it all started. Remember Doge? And Doge is another example of white, entitled, and incompetent policies. Not based in anything in terms of metrics, not based in any measured analysis, just vibes. Just white nationalist vibes. Remember Doge, the group that came in and they would just search for words like trans or DEI or black. And that meant that programs like transportation were also getting cut. It meant programs like the black, I don't even know. I was going to make a snarky comment, but I'm just going to focus on what's most important. Doge is another example of white, entitled, and incompetent policies that slashed a whole lot of positions in the government, slashed tons of services in the government, slashed hundreds of thousands of people from their positions, and did not save any money. Actually cost more money to cut all of those services. Now, all of us are paying taxes for what services we don't actually know because we don't actually get them anymore. White, entitled, and incompetent policies don't work in the economy. They don't work in the healthcare system. Just ask RFK Jr., but we've already talked about him enough last week. Let's continue with the conversation. For those of you who are employed, I'm going to need you to make peace with however much you don't like your job and keep it. I'm going to need you to keep your job because the reality is right now, if you are unemployed, it is taking way longer to find a job than it usually does. And the unemployment rate has now actually risen slightly, but it has risen. And basically, we are now looking at a situation where the warning, remember we said black people are the canary in the coal mine? Well, the canaries are tweeting. The canaries are canarying and basically making it clear, America, your economy is in danger, girl. Black unemployment is up 7.5%, up from 6.1% just a year ago. Now, all the people who was doing all that work, convincing black people not to work for the not to vote for the Democrats. Remember all the people who said you should vote for the Republicans because they're going to be better for black people. Remember all those people who were trying to convince black people to stay home? And they were successful in some ways. Remember all the people who said, no, the Democrats are terrible for the black economy? Where are they now? They're so quiet. They're so very quiet. But yeah, basically, black men, we got the numbers. It's bad. Black women, we've been through the numbers. It's bad. But basically, black men right now, there is no group really doing worse when it comes to their jobs than are black men and black women. Black men at 7.0%, black women at 7.8%. And considering the disproportionate ways in which black women's economies also play into the overall economy of the community, because a significant portion of black households are led by a single person, and that single person tends to disproportionately be a black woman, then this is going to have a disproportionately negative negative impact for all of us. And so we're in a situation right now where the Republican economy is trash. And if you think I'm lying, well, you should listen to the people who often talk about these things, which includes the Republicans. And the Republicans had a lot to say about this. The Republicans were so excited about the Trump economy. Do you remember how happy they were about how the economy was going to be doing well and how excited they were about Trump and how now that the Democrats were in office, they were really going to be able to do powerful things with the economy? I want you all to take a listen to this clip. Jonah, I thought I had this up so that I could show it to the people. YouTube, you're not going to be able to see this one as you usually do. Just going to be able to listen. I want you all to take a listen to this clip. This is Fox News. Fox News talking about the fact that Donald Trump has basically destroyed the labor market. Let's take a listen.
Yep, I sure do. 22,000 jobs added in the month of August. That was much less than the expectation of 75,000, guys. The July number was revised. I will get to revisions in a moment. Unemployment rate coming in as expected, 4.3%. So that would be higher than July's 4.2%. Again, 22,000 jobs added in August. Let me get you the revisions because this is what everybody is focused on. For June and July together, combined 21,000 jobs lower than previously reported. I'll categorize that now. So you see for June, it was revised down by 27,000, getting you to negative 13,000, and the change for July up by 6,000, getting you to 79,000.
Damn, dog. That's a shame. If only somebody had said that this was going to happen. Oh, wait, but we did. And so now we get to see what the realities look like. And I love this part of the conversation where we're going to have the FAFO. Let's have a FAFO discussion about what's happening with some people who were really excited about Donald Trump. I'm going to share this one. You guys should be able to see this video. Jonah, let's pull up that video of the Arkansas farmers who are now struggling just a little bit. Ooh, let me try to actually share the screen, not destroy the screen. Okay, here we go. Let's take a listen.
Almost everything that could go wrong for Arkansas farmers did go wrong this year. And it's so bad that many are facing bankruptcy or even the closure of farms that have been passed down for generations. A dismal global market and plunging commodity prices mean there's little to no hope of breaking even for many farmers, even as sky-high input costs rise because of inflation and now tariffs. Not to mention bad weather earlier in the year.
This time last year, the rice price was about 40% higher than it is now. The inputs costs have gone up. So after a horrible year last year, where most farmers in Arkansas Delta lost money, this year's going to be worse.
Though President Trump's big, beautiful bill provided a much-needed update to safety net subsidies for farmers, they won't see those federal dollars until late next year, by which time some have projected that as many as 1/4 or even 1/3 of Arkansas farmers will face bankruptcy or be forced to leave the business amid the crisis the American ag economy is currently in. It's already taken its toll this year.
I'm a sixth-generation farmer from Newport, and we made the decision to go out this year. In the spring. So my son will not be the seventh generation on our farm.
5 of my customers have committed suicide. That's how serious that this is.
Today, Arkansas farmers gathered to share their struggles with staffers from the state's congressional delegation, pleading for Arkansas lawmakers on Capitol Hill and the governor to convince President Trump to provide emergency funding to help them make it to next year.
We have to have ad hoc payments right now to make it through this year.
If there's no emergency funding this year, there will be 1 out of 3 farmers will file bankruptcy.
Until the federal government steps in to save them, farmers have no one to turn to but God.
Farmers, in my opinion, dear Lord, and it's only my opinion, are closer to thee than anyone else on this earth because we deal with your earth every day. Dear Lord, we're hurting, dear Lord. We can't help what's happened to us.
You could have helped what happened to you. You could have voted properly. You voted for somebody who told you they were going to base their entire economy on WEI policies, and you thought, yes, that's going to work for me. And it's not working for you, Cletus. It ain't working for you, Clem, because guess what? It's hard out here for an economy that's run by people who have no actual qualifications. Now, if you thought I was being a little hard on y'all's president, which I am intentionally, I just want you all to realize that his Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent, has said that don't worry, I know you don't see the numbers now, but you just wait. Wait till the fourth quarter of this year. You're going to see the improvement in the numbers. You're going to see it. You just got to trust me. You're going to see it. But then Donald Trump had some things to say about when he thought you were going to be able to see the shifts in the economy. And he's saying, well, it's maybe not this year. Right, maybe closer to next year. He's definitely not seeing it in the cards for this year, and maybe not even 2026 either. Jonah, let's hear what Trump had to say about this.
5 months, we have all these slew of events next year: World Cup, G20, all America 250. Given these, what's your economic outlook for the year 2026? How much growth do you think is reasonable for us to expect economically next year?
Well, I heard, and we were on a very downward path with Biden, and I heard that the most we could do is 1% GDP, and now I'm hearing 3.2% and 3.5% and all. And our big year won't be really next year. I think it'll be the year after, because when these plants start opening up, it takes a period of time to build them. We're going to have tremendous job growth. It's unprecedented. We have unprecedented in history. There's never been anything like it, because we're going to have more than $17 trillion invested. There's never been anything like that. If we did $1 trillion in 1 year, and this is 6 months, 7 months, because we really focused on it over the last 6 months.
There's never been anything like it because he's lying. He's pulling them numbers out the side of his ass. And that's a lot of space to pull from. It's big. There's nothing wrong with... let me do this without body shaming. That's rude. I would tell my daughter that's inappropriate. The point is this. Don't worry. This year is shot as far as Donald Trump is concerned. You're not going to see the economic recovery this year. It's not going to be in Q4. It's not even going to be next year. Now, next year, 26 is when the midterms would be, so that it might make sense. No, it's not going to be 27. That's when you're going to see it. You're going to see it in 2027. Just hang on, Americans. Just hang on. Don't you worry. In 2027, after the midterms, it's all going to come back, and it's going to be just fine. It's going to be just fine. Ain't going to be no problems. Ain't going to be no problems whatsoever. It's going to be just fine. Just fine. And basically, this is curious because he says, the reason we got to wait till 2027 is because you got to make sure that all the factories, right, all the manufacturing factories, you just got to give them a chance. It takes a little while to build up. You just give them a minute. It's not going to be this year. It's not going to be next year. The 2027, just wait. The factories are coming. And when the factories come, they're going to start jobs and do all this stuff. And then, see, the challenge that Donald Trump is having with that sort of argument is that over the weekend, did you see what happened to that one factory in Georgia where they had like hundreds of people who is the biggest ICE arrest in like the history of ICE? And that's saying a lot because ICE be arresting people. And it was a factory that was partially owned by South Koreans. And of the many hundreds of people who were arrested, a significant number of them, hundreds of people, was also South Koreans. And so that created this whole diplomatic international situation, a kerfluffle, if you will, because then South Korea was like, hey, man, you asked us to come and build this factory here, and part of building factories in another country isn't just that you're going to build the factory and hire the people in the country. Part of building a factory in another country will sometimes require you to bring people from your home country where you have the expertise because your education system is actually worth a goddamn. And then you bring those people who are temporary workers over into the country where you're building the factory so that they can get the factory up and running. They can make sure that the people who are going to be working in the factory from the country that is hosting the factory are going to be properly trained. You can't do that when ICE is going Gestapo wild and arresting people all over the damn place. And that's basically what happened right now. We had a situation. God damn, look at this. I just be trying to mind my own business, and then the Lord just send me a blessing like this. I'm live on YouTube, and here comes one of the most amazing people on the damn planet. How are you? This YouTube is right there. Say hi. This is Karen Hunter. Can y'all even see her? I don't even know if we can see. Hi, this is Karen. We love each other. I love her. She's amazing. We're both wearing black. That wasn't the plan. No, but we are black and excellent, so there's that. Anyway, I'm talking to the people about South Korea. Did you hear about this? The factory in South Korea? Or it was a South Korean factory in Georgia. Basically, all right. The Hyundai people. So, like, y'all, my question is, how are you supposed to convince other countries to come and build a factory in your country when you arresting the people? It created this whole international kerfluffle. That's y'all know that's one of my favorite words, kerfluffle. And basically now the South Koreans is like, you're going to give us our people back. You're not going to deport them, because if you deport them, that's going to include all of these negative repercussions, because once you get deported, it's a good 10 years before you can come back in the country. And seeing as we know Americans ain't got enough people who got the the intelligence to do what the South Koreans are able to do in that factory. They need them people to not be deported. So they're going to quietly allow them to go home. But the entire world is like, you want us to consider building factories there for you? And this is how you treat our people when we're doing it? And you don't have the capacity, the technology, let alone the intelligence to do this for yourself? Is that really what you're saying? But in case you thought I was being hard on the white racists, I just want you to know that WEI, white, entitled, and incompetent policies, it's not just about whiteness. WEI policies can show up in anybody, especially when you are a black person who is white supremacy adjacent. Now, I want you all to take a listen, because we talked last week about what was happening with the healthcare system. And we talked about the fact that in Florida, they just said, ain't no more vaccine mandates. We find whooping cough, pertussis, measles, mumps, rubella, chickenpox, polio, whatever you got, it don't care to us. We don't care. We're going to do whatever it is that we need because we don't believe in vaccines. So white, entitled, and incompetency isn't just something that shows up in a black face. I want you all to listen to Dr. Ladapo. Dr. Ladapo is a black man. And remember, we had a whole conversation last week about, how the mighty African has fallen. We done went to, from Onesimus, who introduced Europeans to what vaccine technology looked like, to Dr. Ladapo in Florida, who is basically doing this. Jonah, you got that? Amina's here. It's a lot happening in the background. Amina, you got that clip with Dr. Ladapo? I want y'all to take a listen. And YouTube, I'm going to show y'all my screen so y'all can see what this is. Take a listen to this. This is what white, entitled, and incompetent policies get you in healthcare. We looked at what it got you in economics, but this is what it gets you in healthcare. Let's take a listen.
Vaccine mandates absolutely positively should not be something that is part of our society.
I'm looking at this report from your department from April, showing that more people in Florida are seeking religious exemptions for vaccines. And at the same time, Florida is seeing rising cases of hepatitis A and whooping cough and chickenpox. This is in your own report, your own department's report. Before you made this decision to try to lift vaccine mandates for Florida, which include obviously public schools, did your department do any data analysis? Did you do any data projection of how many new cases of these diseases there will be in Florida once you remove vaccine mandates?
Absolutely. So absolutely not, because it's not you mentioned whooping cough there. So there's this conflation of the science and sort of what is the right and wrong thing to do.
Where is his chapstick?
So scientifically, you mentioned whooping cough. So that's an example. This is part of the issue with informed consent. That's an example of a vaccine that is ineffective. The data show that it's ineffective at preventing transmission. So sort of mandates with that really don't have anything to do with the notion of transmission. And then in terms of, analysis, well, ultimately, this is an issue very clearly of parents' rights. So do I need to analyze whether it's appropriate for parents to be able to decide what goes into their children's bodies? I don't need to do an analysis on that.
So you're trying to lift the vaccine mandate in Florida, and your department and you did not even do a projection as to how this could impact public health. So you have not prepared hospitals in the Florida counties most at risk with the best treatments for any outbreaks of measles, mumps, rubella, whooping cough, polio, and you have not looked into how many kids might now get these preventable diseases? That's what you're saying?
That's what you said.
No, that's what
I'm
you
saying
said.
Is that it's an issue of right and wrong in terms of whether parents should be able to have ultimate authority over what happens to their kids' bodies. And in terms of outbreaks, we do have outbreaks in Florida, just like every state, and we manage those. So there are no new special procedures that need to be made.
Right, but you're talking about doing something that no other state has done.
We manage them just as always.
But you're talking about doing something that no other state in the United States has done, and removing the vaccine mandate for public schools. You're making a decision that no other Surgeon General in the United States has done. It goes against what's recommended by every top medical organization, including the AMA, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Boston Center on Emerging Infectious Diseases. It goes against what parents in Florida want. 82% of parents in Florida schools said public schools should require vaccines for measles and polio with health and religious exemptions. It goes.
That man said, no, we ain't do no study. Hold on. How do I stop sharing? I'm trying to stop sharing my screen. What I do? I messed up. Oh, hold on. Stop sharing. Okay. That man said, no, we ain't do no study. Jake Tapper should have that was Jake Tapper, right? I don't know because I don't watch the channel. Shouldn't he have another book out? I feel like it should be another book out. But Jake Tapper said, did you do a study, a comparison, an evaluation, a prediction? And that man said, nope. Nope. Here's how you know that the black male that you're listening to don't have bad hairlines and no chapstick. That man's lack of chapstick clearly indicated he should not be getting listened to. And his lack of knowledge coming through the lips that were cracking as y'all heard him swallow that water because he had to. He's parched. Lying will dry your spirit. And it'll make you ashy. It'll make your thoughts ashy. It'll make your lips ashy. It'll make your words ashy. Basically, they have tried this experiment in the state of Florida. No studies, no academic prediction. And they've got the tool. We have the tools to do studies. But when you are white, entitled, and incompetent, or in the case of Dr. Ladapo, white adjacent, who needs knowledge? Who needs information? And Dr. Karen Hunter... Professor Karen Hunter just said, Professor Karen Hunter made a good point. She said, and the whole chat apparently is hyped about you joining in. Professor Karen Hunter just said, we can't compare him to Onesimus because Onesimus was an enslaved African. Dr. Ladapo has a colonized mind. He's an African with a colonized mind. They're not the same. You can be physically enslaved, but your mind's still free. Or you can be dry and ashy in the spirit and technically free, but you are a slave to the white supremacist analysis that is going to destroy your name and your legacy. So this is where we're at. We have an economy that is heading into the tank. Now, this don't surprise none of us. We've been new. We've been saying this. This is what Project 2025 portended, and this is what it means to have a white, entitled, and incompetent set of economic policies. This is a white nationalist economic system. These are white nationalist policies that have created this situation, kind of like the situation that was created for poor Europeans who thought they were coming here to get a job and found themselves basically replaced by a slave labor system that wealthy white people then convinced them to agree with, even though it was against their own economic best interests. White, entitled, and incompetent policies produced by white, entitled, and incompetent people or their adjacent wannabes will create a country that is dealing with the fallout of being white, entitled, and incompetent. If you doubt me, well, Vivek Ramaswamy told y'all what was going to happen. He told y'all that before. Anyway, we got to go to commercial break. YouTube, we appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for being a part of this experience. Karen Hunter is still sitting next to me. So Urban View, I think we're going to get